It's 11:59 on Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall, the chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache, John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, American, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there, on or behind the line, this is your song. Welcome to our daily gun show. Each weeknight we talk about guns. For an hour, join the conversation on gunchannels.com. Who do we have with us tonight? We have Dead Horse from Utah. Welcome. Thank you for joining tonight.
Thank you. Howdy. Thank you for having me.
Gizzard Gary is a human from Kansas. Welcome to our chat, Gary. Gizzard Gary.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's as much as I had. But that's our robot introduction that we're going to do from now on, because I'm sick of saying the beginning of the show. So what do you think? Here, robots of the future.
That's how Skynet starts.
That's right.
Convenience and efficiency. And cost. It was super cheap. All right, so today is Wednesday. I was just telling these guys I ain't got much in me, so we can see how much we got to chat about. It's going to depend 100% on whoever is chatting out there. So we do this on one of the platforms that facilitates it, right? They hate our property. They hate our rights. They don't like the laws that we appreciate. And we're on Gun Channel, so that's where the links go out. And we're having conversations. So today is Wednesday. On the Daily Gun Show, we normally talk about entertainment and firearms. But I was thinking unless you guys have something else to chat about, Dead Horse has a G30 over there, it sounds like. But we could talk about movies with robots, but also with guns. So not like just some plain old robot movie that doesn't have any guns, but like a movie with robots and real guns, not like space guns. I was thinking that might be a topic for tonight.
That'd be a good topic.
We could do a bracket or some sort of top 10, perhaps. Did James Bond overhype PPKs? James Bond was supposed to be like a guy who could deal with anything. It wasn't about the gun. It was about his skill level, right? So I don't think he overhyped them. I think that, in fact, if anything, it was supposed to be a delicate little girly gun that he was just so like good that he could use it, like a surgical instrument, right?
And concealment, because they didn't have a lot of choices for little subcompacts back then, right?
Yeah, and he wasn't going to use some like Nazi caliber that lost World War II. Wasn't his like a 32 or a 380?
I'm guessing it's a 380, that PPK, right? Like I don't know for sure.
Well, I know that in one of the movies, his boss at the table, the desk or whatever. What caliber did he use? I guess the internet needs a little bit more than that. How about James Bond? I know in one of the movies, he comes in and his boss is like, whoever's just sitting at the table, I forget what letter the boss is, and he's like, "Your gun's too little. You got to carry on this bigger gun." This is like one of the old movies. I think it might have been Connery, and he goes, "Screw you, I'm going to use," or no, he says like, "Okay, whatever," and then he goes back and uses his old gun anyway. So he says Bond carried a Beretta 418 and 22 ACP. Oh, this must be some stupid new film. Nobody cares about the new films. What caliber is James Bond's gun? The internet only tells you about Skyfall. Yeah, but I don't think of James Bond as Skyfall. I think of James Bond as James Bond, right? All right, you guys are all muted. So
I think in the book, in Skyfall in the book, there's that's where that whole thing takes place with the Beretta, right? Like, or something like.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
fake James Bond. James Bond was written in the 60s when it was cool in Cold War and everything, and it was cool still, like, you know, be a sexist or whatever. And like now it's all politically correct James Bond where he's parkouring all over the place. Or even, I mean, I guess it's still technically James Bond.
So robots with guns in them, robot movies with guns in them.
Yeah, I guess that's a big thing.
So,
I mean, I know what the number one is. I'm pretty sure I can't think of anything better than the number one, but there's probably others.
I was thinking RoboCop.
Oh, no, I mean, that's kind of future guns, but they were still guns. They weren't like lasers or something.
I was thinking a Universal Soldier.
So cyborgs, I'm counting cyborgs as robots?
Yeah, dude, cyborg. I think cyborgs count as robots, right?
I mean, I think it's a separate. I mean, I think it's speciesist to consider cyborg a robot because they still have human in them. If it was like a robot cyborg, where like a Terminator, where there was never a human, there was only a robot with like a cellular skin over it. Okay, that kind of cyborg. But if it was like a cyborg, like person gets chopped up or whatever, and then has like bionic pieces attached to him, like Darth Vader, isn't there a difference? I mean, there's not in whatever the equivalent of LGBT is for robots, because all there is cyborgs, androids, and robots, really, and droids.
James Bond's gun caliber was a 25 ACP, and then later on, after he talked with M, he switched over to a 7.65.
Oh, a 7.65. Oh, okay. That's why how he shot down helicopters with it. Okay, makes sense now. So how about let's see here. I'm trying to think of other movies with guns, like iRobot, right? Like that had a robot in it. It had a bunch of robots in it with guns, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. I really like that movie too. Good robots in that movie.
And I don't know if the guns were. I don't remember the guns being real. I think the guns were kind of all futuristic, if I remember right.
In iRobot?
Yeah, I think Will Smith had like maybe like a little subcompact rock or something. But no, it was like a Beretta, I think. But other than that, I think
like
all the guns were pretty futuristic, right?
They were shifted futuristic, but just like the cars, like they were futuristic, but they still had wheels and they still drove around. They weren't like futuristic, like one of the movies where they're driving up and down the side of buildings.
The guns used in iRobot, Will Smith's gun was a modified Taurus 85, and then somebody else used a Beretta. I can't remember which Beretta model, and then they used a SWAT team shotgun that was modified, and I think it was a Mossberg that had been modified. If I'm not mistaken, the submachine gun used by one of the AIs was an H&K.
Dude, it sounds like somebody's got a 2.5 by 11 sheet of vinyl that they're flashing back and forth to make a sound of thunder or something in your house.
That's my dog chewing on an elk antler.
Oh, damn. Take the elk skull away from your dog for the show, eh? Or put the dog outside.
Austin Powers.
What are you talking about, the boob guns? Or are you just talking about guns in general?
Well, no, he carried a gun too. But there were robots in it.
See, I keep thinking of like cool movies, but then I'm like, oh, that's like cyborg-ish, right? It's like human and computer, like. So it's like I'm trying to think of like pure computer. And it's hard. That's actually really hard. Because then I could think of some, but then there wasn't really like guns. Like I can think of like what was that one, Maximum Overdrive, right? Like or something like that. I can't remember too many guns in that.
Well, if you ask the internet, robot movies with guns, you get Mr. Robot. I don't know what that is. No, that's a show. I don't think it has anything to do with robots, though. then you just get a bunch of lists of robot films, killer robot films.
I think Will Smith carried an AR-15 in I Am Legend.
Yeah, we're talking about robot movies with guns, though.
Oh, it's got to be specifically robots. Okay.
So they're saying The Day the Earth Stood Still is a robot movie. I don't know if that is anything. Westworld, I guess those are robots, yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
definitely have guns. Do you see that new Westworld show? Everybody see that one? It was on?
I watched the first season, and that's all I've watched.
It was okay. It could have been better. I don't like it when things are like potentially really good and then they go some lame direction, because then it just frustrates me even more that they didn't do something cool with it. And that's sort of how that one went, I think. Logan's Run. I don't remember that one enough to remember guns in it. They're saying Alien. I don't think there's any robots in Alien. Does anybody remember Black Hole, 1979?
No.
Maximilian, big red robot running around. He had like a little R2D2 looking good guy robot. But space guns, so it doesn't matter. Blade Runner. It's not that futuristic a gun. It's basically a revolver with an extra underbarrel launcher of some sort, right? And I think they're still robots. So I was thinking Terminator. That's the number one. But I don't know. I guess technically the Terminator's a cyborg. But like I say, I don't know.
I watched a movie called Chappie,
Oh,
and that had guns in it.
Yeah, definitely. That's a super good one. I totally forgot about that one. That one's awesome, in fact. You know what would be cool is a Chappie AR, or do you think that'd be lame?
That sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, that I think that would be cool.
I'm asking around about getting another AR.
So another movie I can think of is called Short Circuit, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. And that had M16s in it and like a shoulder-mounted cannon, right?
Yeah, I hated that movie. I could go back and watch it.
Oh, I loved that movie as a kid. Like,
Yeah. I think it was because it was on HBO all the time, and whoever was in it I didn't like. And the robot was wimpy. I didn't like the robot. I want strong robots. But I'll have to go back and watch it because a lot of people do like it. It has a 6.6 rating over here on the IMDb.
Technically, I guess the new Alien franchise, because those are all the whole new villain's no longer the alien; it's the robot who's killing everybody. So they've got the guns from the Alien franchise.
Guy saying Asylum. That's that one.
that's what I was thinking of, but that's like Cyborg, right? Like I liked that AK in that movie. Like that's one of the first movies that came to mind.
That would be an interesting one to see. I know I've seen pictures whenever it came out of the prop, because it's just a wasser underneath it all. It's not even hidden. It's a wasser, like plain old ugly wasser.
Yeah, with the flip up NC Star red dot. Yeah.
But there's the people that have the suits like bolted to their skeletons, I think is what the deal was. But I'm trying to remember. I don't think there was even robots on that space station or anything in that one yet. It was still kind of just people all the time, right?
I think they did have robots. They did, because there was robots who were flying the things. They had like security robots and all that, but there was still people, right? Like the robots were like kind of limited.
Okay. So like enhanced Roombas and shit, maybe that.
Yeah. Like they could fly you places and they could do like basic security and stuff like that, I think, if I remember right. But
speaking of that, I heard today that the Army, I saw it on Instagram. I don't know if you follow Army on Instagram, but they have
the birthday. Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, I guess it's the reserve's birthday yesterday, but today is Stoner's anniversary of his death today, or is it his birthday?
Yeah. His death. Yeah.
Okay. But now I was thinking on the Army thing, today they bought or they purchased and will be delivered 40 of these trucks that I forget what the name of them are, but one guy drives a truck and up to 9 of them can be tethered robotically behind him. So one dude drives a truck down the road and 9 other robots follow and just drive wherever he drove. And the Army bought 40 of those to start doing that. So now we've got robot trucks that are kind of drones, but also robots because they're self-autonomous or whatever.
Heck yeah.
They say Transformers, the movie. That doesn't.
No, I can't. Dude, I don't.
Plus, I don't understand Transformers. I guess the new Transformers movies where they touch something and they can act like that thing, like that kind of makes sense. But dude, the bad guy acting like a Nazi gun just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what the hell? On that planet of robots, like he decided to be a Nazi gun from Earth? It doesn't make any sense. Plus, he's a huge robot, and he zaps down into like, a handgun. Anyway, I understand Transformers, but that's too much fantasy. RoboCop. Gary said that one right. What do you think of RoboCop 2 though? I think of RoboCop 2 with that fold up. What is now the what does Magpul call that thing? The
Street sweeper.
No, the fold up gun. The kid has it in RoboCop 2. The kid drug dealer has that little fold up gun, which isn't a real machine gun. It's an actual thing. It's a little fold up Mac that Magpul turned one in 2000.
Oh yeah.
He turned one into a little sub gun that flips open. I can't remember what the hell they call that thing though. It's a 3 or 4 letter initial. I just can't remember it. But anyway, RoboCop has certainly got some interesting. I mean, they're fake, but it's got real guns in it too. There's a 50 in it, right?
In the first movie, yeah, that's what what's his name uses to Foreman's dad uses to shoot him.
Yeah, in the head. They're saying Bill and Ted's. I don't know how there's any robots in Bill and Ted's. Is there a robot in Bill and Ted's?
The second Bill and Ted's, there was 2 evil robots that came and replaced them.
Oh yeah, but there's nothing.
Ghost and Shell. Ghost and Shell's got a lot of gunplay.
And there's robots.
Yeah, there's as much robot as RoboCop is.
They're saying some movie called Virus. The crew of an American tugboat boards an abandoned Russian research vessel, and I have seen that movie. I think there's no robots in that. I don't know what they're thinking. Terminator 3, iRobot, Transformers again. They're seeing a bunch of Transformers and Terminators, and then ripoffs of those. The World's End. There was a robot in The World's End. I remember that.
Now, if you want to really go back in time, technically, in The Wizard of Oz, if you consider the Tin Man a robot,
I think so.
I think in one point in time where they're trying to rescue Dorothy, the Scarecrow has a revolver in his hand.
Really? I remember
Battlestar Galactica. They had some movies, but TV show also, right? The Cylons. Those things were robots.
Yeah. Now, Gary, are you like obligated to bring up Wizard of Oz, or did you just?
I think it's part of the Constitution here in the state of Kansas. Yeah, we have to do that.
Okay, it's like part of your internet fees. Like you're allowed to have internet. It's just that whenever possible, you have to bring up Wizard.
That's right. One of the few restrictions we have on us here.
Let's see. Ain't RoboCop cyborg? Yeah, I guess that's true. No, but Ed 209 ain't a fucking cyborg. Ed 209 is one of the coolest fucking robots ever fucking happened ever, right? The big ass one with the 2 arms, looks like a battle droid. Can't wait for Ed 209s to run around. It's gonna be awesome.
I don't know. Could you count the things in the Matrix as robots and stuff?
The dudes in the jackets or whatever they're called, the suits,
or them, or those Sentinel creatures, because they had those suits they wore, and with
those are robots. Those like things that look like the things that floated around in fire. Yeah, look like kind of like squids. Yeah, those are robots, right? They're not. Yeah. They just look like things. They're robots, right? They were made out of metal. So yeah, definitely Matrix.
And then what about Knight Rider? Is Knight Rider a robot?
Yes, I believe Knight Rider is a robot. What do you guys?
Most definitely. So is Nightboat.
There's a Nightboat?
There was a attempted spin-off of Nightboat. Yes.
Dude,
it never. You got to find its pilot.
Well, the pilot is David Hasselhoff, and
No.
Rider would drive Knight Rider down to the boat, and then Knight Rider would get into the boat, and then he would drive Nightboat over to Baywatch, and then he would do his lifeguard gig.
And then at night, he'd go and become the Baywatch Knights, where he'd solve mystical mysteries. Hasselhoff really drove that character to the ground.
There's a... Oh, go ahead.
Well, guy was saying Iron Giant, but I don't like that cartoon. It was super anti-gun.
I remember this movie. I think it was called Screamers, about these things like on the moon underneath the ground, and they made this sound. And there was a lot of guns in that movie, and that was kind of like an old classic B movie, but it was a really good movie. If anyone's ever seen Screamers, you'll know what I'm talking about. So those things would be robots. Those things were all like robotic.
Then we have like B movie list. You got like Robot Holocaust, which was about robots coming to take over. Yeah, it was a B movie.
Yeah, there's B ones that are good and there's B ones that are bad, but the problem with B ones is, well, I guess it shouldn't be a problem, but where the web, you need to find like a website that archives them well, or that like, has them organized well or something, so that you can actually figure out which ones are which. Like I tried to go through Amazon or something. I was looking at Charlie Chan movies. I don't know if this is off topic, I guess. I just saw Amazon recommended Charlie Chan movie, an old ass 1939 Charlie Chan movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched it, and it's like some old tall white guy being Charlie Chan. And I kind of remember these from when I was a little kid. It's from 1939, so I'm sure I've seen it before, before there was choices of what to watch. But anyway, it was fascinating. I was like, wow, this is like the most racist, weird, like just, it's just different from 1939. It's just different. So I was watching it, and then, there's like a billion of them. Well, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like I watched one or two. They're like 40 minutes long because the movies were short back then. So I watched a couple of them, just doing stuff, and I had them running or whatever. And I don't pay any attention when I watch stuff like this. So, one would end and I would recommend the next one. Well, by the time I got to like 3 or 4, I don't know which ones I already seen before. So I was like 20 minutes in and I'm like, pretty sure I've seen this one before, and I'd have to fast forward to the next one. So that's where I like, if I find something like that, like just some niche or something, like finding a website that organizes them is cool, because then you can, start at the top of their list or something. Or sometimes like a website will say, here's all the movies that happened, or like the shows from a series, but here's the real order to watch them in. There's a couple of TV series that were kind of cool, but they like put them on air in the wrong order, or like in a weird order for some reason. And if you have the chance of watching them in your own order, then there's websites that show you like what order they were actually filmed in, and then like all of a sudden storylines make sense and stuff. But anyway, well, it's a side topic there.
Now, question for the qualifications to be a movie in this: do the robots actually have to use the guns, or does there just have to be robots in the movie?
We've been pretty loose because there's not enough robots using guns, because the robots have stupid claw hands and whatever.
The guns either have to be, I think, used by the robots or used against the robots.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to say Star Wars, because Chewbacca's bowcaster and Han Solo's pistol.
Yeah, kind of, but they throw bolts, electric.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to
lasers, but granted, there's badass robots in it. It's basically guns.
Iron Man 3. Specifically Iron Man 3, because that has all the suits being robots without him in it. And then that's where he uses, Iron Man actually uses a gun several times in that movie. And then he's all asking Rhodes, like, give me a mag. And Rhodes is like, my mag won't work in your gun. And he's like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Like, just give me a mag. Right?
Oh, check that had Iron Patriot in it too. That works.
Well, usually Iron Man, I don't think he's used a gun in any of the other movies he's been in except for number 3. So.
All right, so if we've come up with all the movies, are we going to bracket this or do some sort of a top 10 in a better way than when Matt does it, so we're not technically ripping them off, but still copying off of him? We have this huge panel tonight, so left to right, what out of the ones we just mentioned there, your top 3? So I'll give you all a minute, and we'll see if anybody else who's listening, we've got 17 people watching out there, out of the stuff we listed there, in order, like 1, 2, and 3, your top 3. And then when we get a bunch of people's results, we can see what the top 3 robots with guns are. That makes sense?
Top 3, not counting Terminator.
Not counting Terminator.
Oh, that was my number one.
That's going to be a given. Like, we're all going to pick that. So, like, that should just be a given. So
no, I don't want to give it, because that's how you figure out when somebody has like a different idea, or there's somebody like really has never seen a movie before or something. But no, I hear you. But I mean, RoboCop, You know, he's pretty damn close. I mean, I guess we're gonna call RoboCop a robot because Ed 209, he kicks the shit out of Ed 209 with guns. So anyway, yeah, whoever wants to go first. Anybody already got their pick?
I've got two. Actually, I think I got three for you.
All right.
So since we can't say Terminator, it's going to be RoboCop.
No, we
Ghost
can
and
say Terminator. No, we said we can say Terminator.
Okay, well in that case, it's going to go Terminator, RoboCop, Ghost and Shell.
Okay. Somebody will have to keep track of all this. So Gary, what are you thinking? Or is Demi out the dead horse? You good?
Well,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Derek. Okay, I'll say a Short Circuit, Terminator, and Iron Man 3.
Gary?
So, do I have to pick something nobody else has picked?
No, this is just out of the stuff we talked about so far, your top three of them. Nobody
Well,
else. We've got a couple of top threes out there.
Well, since RoboCop's the first one that came to mind for me, that'd be my number one. Let's see, Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. Let's just throw Terminator in there because that's obviously one that comes to mind too.
All right, so number one, Terminator. Number two is difficult, but I'm still going to give it to Ed 209 because of classicness. And then three is Chappie Robot. So I guess we got Terminator for sure in there. Did any of us even pick a second one together?
We have a couple of votes for RoboCop.
You guys had 3 votes for RoboCop.
Okay, so there you go. And then let's see, out in the chats, we've got a guy saying Chappie, Asylum, or whatever that word is, Elysium, and I Am Robot. Man, I'd put I Am Robot in there, but he just didn't really use guns enough. But those robots are certainly cool. But I don't know about Asylum. What were we saying? Was there robots running around? Oh, you know what else I would want to put in there is Live, Die, Repeat. But there wasn't really robots in that, was there?
Well, a movie that none of us brought up that just came to mind is Number 9.
I remember Robots in Elysium coming down and trying to protect that security guy they're trying to kidnap. And so he's shooting at the robots with an AK, and these robots are shooting back at him. So I remember robots.
Right. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. There are, and they're flying around drone robots. That is pretty good. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, what'd you say, Doug? The 9?
There's a movie, Number 9. It's where robot AI. It's an animated movie, but it's actually a really good movie for an animated movie. Robot AI has taken over and basically destroyed the world, and this professor guy creates these 9 ragdolls out of pieces of his soul who become sentient and have to fight and stop the AI. But it's a very cool movie for an animated movie, and it handles the fear of AI very well. And they use all kinds of guns and nuclear explosions.
Well, when you get animated stuff in there, it would certainly, I mean, there's got to be as much animated stuff almost as there is film stuff because they can come out with it so much more.
Well, I was just thinking stuff that actually went to the box office, not just movies made. And that actually
there's a lot of that stuff. I guess there is no box office for anime. It just has to be made for. I guess I thought over there maybe there was shows or something, but anyway. So yeah, there's definitely a ton of. If you even bring cartoons into it, heck, there's probably a lot of cartoons. Just our cartoons.
Oh yeah, cartoons. The list can go on forever.
So Tim on the gun channel side saying Terminator, Short Circuit, and RoboCop. Used to be copying off Dead Horse, right? Wait, you said Short Circuit, Terminator, and which one?
Iron Man 3.
Oh, that's right. And I think Honda's saying Borg, and Johnny 5. Obnoxious saying Terminator, Matrix, and the Wild Wild West. So what, that big giant spider? Or no, that wasn't a robot, that was a vehicle.
Yeah, that was like mechanical.
Was there a robot in there? There might have been.
There was mechanical contraptions, but no legitimate robot that I can think of. Because the giant spider was just a mechanical object controlled by the guy.
But I'm thinking like one of the bad guys' henchmen or something might have been a robot at the end, right? It was like a clockwork robot or something. I don't remember it enough.
That was back in the 90s. It was a long time ago.
Oh no, I've seen it since then. I remember Matt was talking about it at some point, and I seen it somewhere and watched it again. It kind of holds up. If it's like a Saturday afternoon movie, just to kind of have on while you're doing something. Glimtech is saying RoboCop, Terminator, and iRobot. I don't know if I already said that one. And then Guy was saying District 9. Can't think of any robots in District 9. Otherwise, I would love to put District 9 in any list. District 9 is awesome.
Well, he got in that suit, right?
Yeah, I mean, you talk battle suits. That's an robotic enhancement to a human, which allows us to compete with the robots in their, playing fields. But yeah, that's not really a robot. We're still the brains behind it. And we're not a cyborg because we're not permanently attached to it.
So did you say that we're counting cartoons or no?
Oh, I don't think we said not to, but I think we.
So I was just gonna say, if we're gonna count cartoons, my mind goes into the Iron Giant.
Yeah, that's anti-gun though. I by principle refuse to ever vote on that movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while, but I watched it, I think, and I was like, it's a kid's movie.
I think it was more like, it was definitely anti-something, but I don't think it was anti.
Well, I like that. I think I'm pretty sure I watched it once, and I was like, it's a movie. And then somebody said it's anti-gun, and I was like, really? And I watched it again, and I couldn't not see that.
See it once it said, yeah.
Oh my goodness, it is. And now I it was like eating something bitter, So I have to watch it again, maybe at some point, do a video on it or something.
And besides, if we included cartoons, then I think Golo is going to end up. That's got to be the #1 gun cartoon ever, followed by Trigun and Gungrave. If you're going to go that route.
Talking about robots, we have nothing. Guns are just the flavor we put on robot movies.
Yeah.
So I've seen a movie here from Tom Selleck called Runaway. Anyone seen that?
Oh well, yeah. That's actually, we should have said that one because that one's super good. I mean, the guns are fake-ish, I guess, because technically we can't shoot around corners of bullets yet. Technically. But yeah, that was a good one. That's what 45 ACP will evolve into.
Yep.
When you got that much bore, you can, and once microprocessing gets small enough, that's when stopping power starts to increase exponentially.
Well, there's another one I forgot about. Star Trek First Contact.
Well, any of the Star Trek. So one of the funny things about Star Trek is that Star Trek has an uncanny ability to predict future technology. And anyone's been a fan of the series for any sort of time knows this, that it's just they have an uncanny ability to predict the future when it comes to technology, right? So if you look at Star Trek, all the guns in Star Trek that they predict that's going to happen, you're basically looking at 1911, M1 Garand, the Calico. I mean, if you look up, if you do the gun search for Star Trek, all the guns are, pretty much, classic guns, classic firearms.
Well, half of the original Star Trek writing team were MIT grads. So you had people that came from a gun culture area plus super smart about technology.
So the guy that wrote it, Rottenberry or whatever, did that guy write the book or something? Like write a book and then it was turned into a TV show?
A screenplay. No, it was straight up just straight to a screenplay.
So he created it as a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that guy who created it as a TV show that gets all the credit, was he he sat down and was the brainchild, or was he I have an idea, and then he brought all these experts in to fill in all the...
From my understanding, is the story I heard is he basically got told that the networks were looking for a Western in space, is what they wanted, and then he sat down and wrote Star Trek.
Yeah, he wrote the pilot and the first 3 episodes solo, to my understanding, and then they gave him a writing team.
It was basically a takeoff on Wagon Train. except for the space theme.
Yep, like the story goes that he was literally told, like, we want a Western in space. So, like,
Okay, so it wasn't like he was a passionate like nerd for like sci-fi and like and
I
it
don't
was
think so.
writing like
But I definitely think he had strong ideas about the future and a utopia and, hopes for mankind, so I think
Okay,
he
so
definitely
that
put that.
okay, that's neat. But I mean, I have heard things of like they thought about the tech that they alluded to, like it wasn't just completely like throwing mashed potatoes at the wall and describe it. It was like let's think about how it might actually be and then build our fantasy
Oh,
world
yeah. Yeah.
in a real framework.
It was some of the guys. I watched some interviews because I'm a huge Star Trek fan. So some of the creators and the prop creators and stuff like that. Some of those guys in interviews, I've heard them say stuff like, "We literally just imagine like what would we want in the future? Like what kind of things would we want, right?" And then that's what they did because they could do anything because it was sci-fi. It's fantasy. So they said that they had a pretty, they were able to pretty much do anything, and they just thought like, what would we want? Oh, like we want like basically a phone that we can just stick in our pocket.
Yep.
All right, well, so that was our entertainment segment of the show. We've been going for a while. I think I started a little bit on time there. Did anybody catch the chat with Jeff earlier today? Jeff Knox?
I did on Instagram. Well, at least most of it.
Did it come through okay on Instagram? Sometimes the audio
Well,
would be crappy.
most of the time it did. Sometimes he was really hard to hear. You were like always pretty clear. Like we could always hear you pretty good, but sometimes his volume would just be so low.
Oh, low. Okay, that's good to know. So I don't know, what the phone is picking up from the speaker on the computers. That's all I'm doing is running the speakers off into the air.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell. And it depends on what kind of device you're on. If I was on my computer or my TV, I probably could have heard it a lot better. But I was, watching Instagram on my phone, right? So I was literally sitting in a car, like watching it. So it's
Well, I guess I was just going to say if there's anything anybody wanted to bring up about that. I thought there was a couple of interesting points that I had not been aware of, I guess. Like, good intention. I thought that, for example, withhold funds to ILA versus NRA, thinking that would be effective or useful. But from hearing from Jeff about how it actually is funded and the way that the works, membership fees don't go to ILA at all.
Yep.
ILA is completely funded separately, and really the stuff that people are concerned about are the membership fees almost exclusively. So his advice in a nutshell was, if you're already a voting member of the NRA, to continue supporting it, to retain that voting status, but he saw very little value in supporting them financially through membership if you weren't at a level where it was useful for the change.
Well, that's why if you're an NRA member, that's why you get all the letters in the mail every 2 weeks asking you to donate. And on those letters, it specifically says ILA, right? So there's definitely a difference there. And I thought he made a good point about bringing up just like, I don't know. He said that you don't have to, contribute to, NRA and all that, but he did make some points about NRA does some good things. I mean, they do. He still said that they were the big dog in the fight, right? And that we didn't want to pull out from them.
Yeah, we might not have much of a choice because of their actions, and the consequences of that might be detrimental. But and it sounds like the potential steps to avoid that eventuality would be difficult, if not, unrealistic almost at this point, based on the people who hold the positions that would have to make those choices this week and then do something about those choices, that they made in the next days, it sounds like. So, I mean, theoretically it's possible, but it doesn't sound like it's realistically very feasible.
Yeah, and this guy sounds really passionate to me, like, like he really cares. His father obviously cared. Like he was even talking about how even after his father basically retired and everything, his father was still like one of the major guys doing stuff. So it sounds like his whole family like It sounds like the guy really cares, and it sounds like he obviously knows his stuff because he comes from a lineage of that, right? Because of how involved his father was. So I think he obviously knows what he's talking about, and I like to listen to professionals who have a lot of experience and a lot of background, and behind them to back it up, right? And so I definitely appreciated all of his input because it definitely brought to light some new things, for me.
Yeah, seriously, I think he's one of the best resources we've got as far as resources go. He's biased, like you said. He said in the show, right, that take everything with a grain of salt, quote unquote, because of his dad and his relationship with the NRA, but also because, like you just said, he knows people. I mean, he's been around in the fight, literally knows everybody, knows the players, and it's just an awesome resource and somebody who's dad in the 80s, 70s, really, shit, the 70s, and through the 80s was at the leading edge of tech for keeping people on message, aware of Second Amendment issues. In fact, his dad, like, literally is one of the few people that started the whole concept of Second Amendment awareness, and then did that through use of what at the time was really cutting edge tech, using the phone dialer and the newsletters and stuff that was available back then. It was able to rally enough people to put on an orange hat at the NRA annual meeting that the NRA leadership was taken aback, and enough people were motivated to vote with intent. The existing board was overturned, was removed from office, and the new board was tasked with keeping the NRA in Washington, D.C. So it's neat to see somebody who was effective in the 70s, in 1977, was effective at something like that, understood the power and the ability of a group to affect change in an organization for good like that, for something that's super valid. And then, for whatever reasons, whatever his, situation challenged him to keep up and keep a conversation going. Imagine if he would have done something else with his life, become a professional fisherman. We would have never had the Firearms Coalition, which was the seed for a lot of the communication between these groups, right? These groups might have all just branched off and done their own thing in their own directions, either repeated efforts or worked against each other, or at least, pulled at the same resources us, the people that are supporting us, all of them, pulled unnecessarily us in different directions. Having his dad there in that position of being, like Clover would say, a bridge to help organizations understand their strengths and weaknesses and how to work together efficiently, to double team the politics in some respects he alluded to. But then, like I say, going through the 80s, and like he was talking about the bulletin boards, he has a archaic looking website because he built his website at the beginning of the internet. He was literally getting people together who were able to get together electronically at the beginning, the cusp of all of this stuff. And can you imagine having, after doing all of that, still being motivated and interested in this? I suspect if it was a no-win situation, he probably would have been frustrated. Even the best persons would be frustrated, right? So I got to assume that some of this is an indication that there's still potential and a bright future and not a bleak future.
With people like him, it helps me, sleep a little better at night knowing that there's people like him out there. It does that are that motivated and that just have their finger on the pulse, because he does. I mean, if anyone has, I think, their finger on the pulse about what's going on right now on the NRA, he's definitely one of them.
Well, and like I say, in a unique way, like not an insider, not an anti, not somebody who works for somebody else who's wanting to see him fall. Just
that's what I'm saying, like not biased. He does not come at me like even though he says that, I think he's a straight shooter. I really got that from him. So I
couldn't put somebody in a better position, really. And then, like I say, he could have just said, "Oh, screw this all thing. I'm going to go be interested in cars or guitars, boards or surfing or whatever." Instead, he kept with it and still doing it. All right. So I don't know if anybody else is going to say anything else out there, but Night Strike. I mean, I'll call you Night Strike. me and Dead Horse could be having this conversation offline. I know Gary's getting sleepy over here, and dog's not saying much. So
I didn't catch the conversation earlier that was had with Knox. So I was listening to you guys. I was getting an understanding of what was going on. No, I agree. I think that, knowing that there are people out there keeping up the good fight and trying to push forward is always a great thing. So yeah, I'm on board with it. And even if I don't like necessarily how the NRA always presents us or acts, I do think that I would like to believe that overall it has been a good thing, overall. And
I don't know how many people read. Oh, go ahead. I cut you off.
That's all right. I was just saying, and I hope that going forward, somehow we're able to reform it and get it more back on track.
I don't know how many people read the article that I linked to, and then he wrote a second article about what the two choices are as he saw it for the NRA going forward. But the article that I referred to, that long article from the 19th, has a paragraph that's interesting because it's such a long reply to such a long article on New York, whatever it was that had the original article. There's an article, or a paragraph in the reply from Jeff that basically, in effect, talks about the point that he kind of started the whole show with, and I kind of talked about at the end of it all, but I honestly didn't know whether it was a good idea to emphasize it or not, in a public thing with a lot, more audience than we have with the 12 people watching right now. Actually, there's probably more like 7 people watching, right? Because a couple of those are us watching our own show. So the idea, though, that they're doing all this stuff in New York, or, it's based out of New York, and New York law says that if you're screwing around as an organization, the board members are liable. So he has a paragraph in that longer reply to the New York Times article where Jeff says that the potential consequences of all this are not just the shutdown of the organization, but the personal responsibility or personal liability of some of the board members and the executives. So there might be people who are held responsible, and this is, I guess, because of the misappropriation or not being responsible with funds that are put in their hands, right? As the members, the members that have the ability in an organization to do stuff with money, or they have the obligation to be aware of what's going on with the money. Like, because it's in New York, they could be like legally liable, and that theoretically, okay, big deal, that could happen anywhere, or maybe that's extreme or something. But because it's in New York, and because of the people who run New York and the way that, imagine the score that somebody gets to shut down the NRA. We know.
Oh, yeah.
He kind of alludes to the fact there that there might not be an NRA 2 weeks from now. We're not. I just kind of didn't want to even talk about that publicly, but I mean, seriously, what if something like that happens and they go click, click, click? There's no NRA next Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean that's a very
and it'll be a
scary.
It'll be a frenzy of sharks of all the other groups trying to jump for supremacy, I think, and one would have to eventually win out, because I really don't see all the NRA members just sitting around saying, "Oh, the NRA collapsed. That's it." I think most NRA members are passionate and care. That's why they are NRA members. So I definitely see them going over to GOA or FCP or somewhere.
I agree with you, Dead Horse. I think, yeah, the majority of members would immediately jump to other organizations. But the two problems I see with that is I don't see 100% retention rate. Because no matter how dedicated we all feel the gun community is, we know that, anytime a big organization breaks down, you never get 100% retention that go off to other things. And then on top of that, from the news media coverage, I guarantee you that'll be 2 weeks of news round the clock, every hour, at the hour, of news media, announcing and reproclaiming that victory, just poisoning the public mindset that's outside the gun community.
Which watching it die slowly and watching every politician walk up and stab a knife into it and take the picture and credit.
Oh yeah, and and that's only going to make it harder for us to get the gun community to grow. And then on top of that, it'd be great even if we magically somehow got 100% retention and everybody joined all these other groups. As good as it is to have a lot of groups, it's not good if when you have all that power spread out and not focused. So even if we retained all of our people supporting these programs, if we don't have these programs pulling their resources together, then it greatly limits their impact. So it would be a bad thing overall.
And I think there's something else you need to consider too. Consider that the NRA is pretty much, in a lot of cases, the backbone of many state organizations. They're either funded by or supported by the NRA. If the if the mothership goes down, how many state agencies are going to fail because they no longer have the support of a big nationwide thing that the NRA is?
Yeah, you are correct.
If you lose your state organizations, you've lost everything.
Well, and another thing you just reminded me by mentioning the state organizations is that there's a lot of gun ranges and stuff in certain states and certain counties that it's their NRA affiliation and quote unquote certifications from the NRA that allow them to stay open and in business.
I mean, who do you think funds the National Shooting Sports Federation? That would pretty much go away too.
Well, like I said, I know gun ranges that, particularly some gun ranges in California, that if the NRA became a void group, their ability to hold classes and stuff is dictated by their NRA credentials, I guess. So if the NRA goes under, does that make their credentials void? And would that enable states like California to just force them out of business because, oh, well, you don't have credentials? Well, the thing that you said made me have the credentials doesn't exist, so therefore your credentials don't exist, kind of situation.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, the NRA being destroyed so easily would be a horrible thing.
I've seen documents that show NRA throwing stuff like $300,000 to a local 2A, like a more grassroots 2A organization that's fighting a personal fight, more or less on the city or county or state level, right? And throw them like 300,000, and then you look at the money that whole organization raised, it would be like 389,000, with 300,000 of that, coming from the NRA. And so when I see those kind of numbers, I'm like, wow, like, so I see the NRA like saying like, oh, like, like we're maybe not big in this state or, affiliated with it or, settled in it. We don't know people in it, whatever. Like, here, let's throw money at this organization and let them fight it, right? So I see them doing stuff like that. I've seen papers showing that. So I don't know.
I'm sure they also contribute to political campaigns for pro-gun politicians too. Hate to see that dry up.
Oh, they do, but we've looked at that, and it's maybe substantial to some elections or whatever, but it's hardly like they're not funding politicians or anything. They're just barely.
No, that's the tax write-off. Come out to the ranch, come on a hunt, stay for 2 weeks with your family. That's. I'm sure people get wined and dined.
Politicians come to the NRA to try to motivate a voter base more so than the NRA goes to the politicians for benefit, to be honest with you. That's always been more of the politician wanting the NRA's voter base than the NRA getting what they wanted from the politician. Because if the NRA was throwing the kind of money at politicians to get good legislation, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now. That relationship has never worked the way that the media has tried to make it sound.
Correct, but it's also because the NRA has never had that intent with their relationship with the politicians. The people that have the power and make the decisions at the NRA never had that focused goal with Second Amendment, like loyalty, I guess you could say, or whatever, to or focus to push anything. They compromise the heck out of stuff. It's for the consequences of what we're talking about are the 25 years of that sort of effort in that direction of kind of treading water as opposed to swimming against the current and getting a stronger membership base. You talked about that membership base earlier. I think, I was talking to Willis the other day, and as a board member of the NRA, his estimate at the number of gun owners was 120 million. Which is a lot. I mean, I've seen lots of different suggestions of how many gun owners there are, and that's certainly on the higher side. I conservatively say 30 or 40. So, just to show the spread or whatever there, but whatever, we're talking a heck of a lot of millions of people, either one way or the other, right? The NRA's tactic has been to send out, I don't have to explain NRA's marketing to anyone. It's blanketed, so everyone knows the NRA marketing. That's the kind of marketing you do for, again, I was talking about it on his show, like, or on that show with Willis, like the kind of marketing you would do for like a new flavor of Pepsi or something. It's the kind of thing you would do for the mass. You depend on the numbers. So if you can ask 1 billion people to do something and 1 million of them agree, and they say to throw $5 at it, you just made $5 million, right? Doesn't even matter what it is. It could be, anything. So that is what's frustrating. The fact that they've been doing that strategy for so long, sure, it brings in money and it creates an income stream, but it doesn't create an active membership base, an educated membership base, a knowledgeable, strong membership base. It just creates an income stream. And that's one of the frustrations, I think, with the whole situation that we're seeing the results of now.
Well, I would like to shine maybe at least a glimmer of hope about things, and that's that you mentioned the New York laws about what can happen to board members and stuff in cases of company corruption. Luckily, there's lots of precedent for this happening with lots of companies over the years, and the most common outcome you see isn't the folding of the company, but the removal and exile of all of the board members and things like that. So there is the potential that through this lawsuit that it'll clear the board and a lot of other people out of the NRA, which has the potential for new leaders to rise up, and hopefully leaders who will be stronger and more motivated towards the directions that people want.
I know you're trying to be optimistic, but I'm going to shit on that, because if what you're talking about is true, if there was a fair, open-minded, or at least partial or impartial, I guess, person directing that, or, in charge, I guess, from the state to enforce that. But what we're looking at, again, is a potential political win for antis in a state where there's no negative consequences at all. There's no negative recourse at all, really, for them having this political score of killing this organization. Even if you say even if they're bucking precedent, they can champion that. They can go, look, we're doing new things because the NRA is so horrible. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't want to shit on optimism at all, but realism is that I'm just saying they're in a bad place to be doing this.
I completely agree with you, G. Like I said, I just wanted to put out there the fact that, I agree with you. It looks all bad. There's no reason for anyone, no one in power in that state is going to come to their aid. I would just hope that with the amount of funds the NRA has and the legal staff that they must have on hand, that there's hopefully somebody in there who would be able to argue that enough to keep them from being folded.
I hear you. I hope that somebody has the balls, or the group of people get together and have the resolve to do exactly what you're saying before. And I think that's what, I know Chris said it in his article. I don't know if we said it on the thing live, but if the NRA, one of their courses of, what to do now would be to do do nothing, and then the other would be to do something to show that they're aware of the problem and they've done something to solve it, and sort of do all that stuff in-house that you just described. Clean house, put new people there with the goal of not doing things the old way. Chris kind of alluded to it. It's going to be messy no matter what, but it's like surgery, right? You got to cut open, you got to bleed, you got to create wound, unneeded, wound that wasn't there to get to the thing that you do to cure, and then create a bunch of scars, or create a bunch of try to say incision, close up the incisions and heal, and hopefully you grow, or you at least live through the whole thing, and hopefully you grow strong again. But to expect something with this, something that we need drastically changed, to expect that to happen easily or quietly or politely, I don't know if that's realistic, right? It's going to be messy, and it's
no, it's going to be bloody. Cutting the cancer out is always going to be a messy process, and it's going to be painful. At this point, our goal should be to survive the operation, not to think we're going to come out of it pretty.
All right, I just put out there as a yawn if there's anybody else got anything else tonight. Going once?
Yeah, I want to say I want to change my vote from Iron Man 3 to Stargate SG-1. The replicators, and they had all sorts of cool guns in the Stargate, and they had movies, plenty of Stargate movies, lots of Stargate movies.
I'll give you them big old, like, goofy looking guys where the one guy has a finger that's a key at the beginning. Like, I think they're robots.
No, the replicators, the little robot spider things, and they even could replicate people, and they would take over. They were kind of like Borg, but it's little spiders. Yeah, they would just take over everything.
Look into people's eyes or whatever. No, that's iRobot or some other movie.
I thought when you said key for a finger, I was thinking Fifth Element.
Oh, I'm thinking Fifth Element. What are we talking about? I am thinking Fifth Element.
Yeah, he's talking about Stargate.
Okay, Stargate.
Stargate SG-1. It was a TV show for a long time.
Oh yeah. Now I'm back to thinking the right. I was thinking because of the pyramids. I think I got glitched over to. So robots in Stargate, where?
Yeah, so they had these robots called replicators, and they were like the scourge of the entire galaxy.
In the movie or the TV show?
They had them both in a movie and in a TV show, and so the replicators have been in like lots of shows and at least one movie that I know. And they had tons of guns. That was the best way to kill the replicators, were with a gun. It wasn't with the fancy energy weapons, or only the guns were the one things good at killing them. For real, like an advanced alien race came to Earth and was like, "Hey, we need your military guys and guns to help us kill this scourge of the galaxy." So yeah, guns save the universe.
Cool. Guns create it, and then guns save it.
The Big Bang.
The Big Bang happens every time your 1911's hammer strikes.
The Big Bang.
10mm.
The original VCT started it all. All right, well, I think with that, we'll end it. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening.
This has been the Daily Gun Show. Only robots were harmed in the filming of this broadcast. Value your voices. Goodbye, humans.